Angel, dear, tell us more about David Hawking's scale of consciousness and why this is an important part of your work.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of fuse the whole conversation together because we touched on so many different things. And it came to my mind when we were talking about the difference, like the different energy I can show up with now and what I'm doing. And that it's not only based on perfectionism and trying to prove my worth and all of those things. Um, but my company, like my overhead company, is AP3,
Yes.
which stands for Angel of Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity. And it was, yeah, I love it. It was such a channel, like an ongoing channel from God of Him revealing to me what this was. And as He was doing that, it was like such a beautiful picture of, if we go back to David Hawking's map of consciousness, as I was saying, shame is the lowest,
Right.
and then peace is actually the highest. And I have felt now peace is the highest outside of enlightenment, and I feel like enlightenment is like we're constantly like going for that, but peace is like the highest of what I would say the mass majority of us really experience. Um, and I have really found that's what has come into my life, like as I've cleared these thought processes and belief systems and cores of shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear. um, it has brought peace into my life, and through having peace, I've been able to find the clarity of what my purpose is.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. And I feel like that is the missing link for a lot of people. You know, we're going through life, we're going through the motions, and we're just doing the things, and we don't have the peace, the stillness, the knowing that comes to really know if what we're doing is in alignment with our purpose or not. And so many, I feel like it's a constant thing that we hear, and people are always, we want to know what our purpose is, we want to have a purpose, and we do all have a purpose. And I think we really find that through clearing these things, raising our vibrations, raising our frequency, and like coming into peace. And then once we're in peace and we can become clear on our purpose, then we can really live a prosperous life. We can live in prosperity. And so that's like the picture that God mapped out for me. And I was like, wow, like, you know, and that prosperity can look like anything, of course, like monetary prosperity, but really just like a life of joy and peace and love and all of the things.
and time to be with your children and
Like little
even
toes.
being able to record this as you're being a mom. Like to me, that's living in prosperity too. I love that so
Yes,
much.
yes, I agree fully. And so yeah, like that's really like the process. And so my idea with Turning Point is being the beginning of that process. We're really going to dig deep into the five core like heaviest frequencies,
Right.
the lowest vibrations, and we're going to talk about like how do they show up in our lives, how have we experienced, I'll share more about how I've experienced them, and create space for other women to share how they've experienced it. And then we're going to do a really powerful peaceful energy healing. So it is, yes, I love it, it's
Peaceful energy.
peaceful energy healing, which yeah is an energetic healing, to kind of go into the subconscious brain, theta waves, meditation, all of that, and to use that to clear where shame, guilt, apathy, grief, and fear all live in our body, both physically and like our spiritual, energetic bodies. and just get that process going, like just starting with that can be so powerful and can shift so many things in our lives. Um, and then yeah, and then we can digest, and it can be like a continual thing from there. But that's going to be what the focus of Turning Point is like, okay, let's even just pick out like one area where we feel some shame or one area where we feel some guilt, and like let's target it and let's clear it and be authentic and real. And then also bringing in, we have 12 amazing, amazing guest speakers, yourself being one of them. I'm so excited. Yeah. And, what I love about all of our speakers is that there's such a vast variety of um, lives that we're all living, like we all live in different parts of the world. We have, you know, families, people without their own children, or single women and married women, like the whole gambit, and people who also work in coaching, and people who work in real estate and hairstyling and nursing, and because this is really applicable to everyone everywhere. And
Oh,
yeah.
glad you brought that point up. And this energy of clearing, right? It's beautiful because it sounds a little less daunting maybe than like, okay, let me have a moment of peace, right? Like it sounds maybe easier to be like, oh, let me have one moment of clearing. And then I don't know, it just feels more attainable, more doable. And I think that's such a big deal to actually get us started to do something. Because as soon as it feels unattainable, we'll
Yeah,
procrastinate, we'll run away. So I like that you make it feel much more digestible.
it all deserves to be celebrated. Anything that we do to um I think especially that's like healing and looking inwardly, like it can be hard, deep work, you know. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you to like look at where you have stories of shame or where you have stories of guilt, and that might not be easy. But it'll be so worth it. And also we're going to bring in that celebration and that joy and that like reverence that each woman deserves for like being willing to look at these things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did courage add up in all this equation of you getting to the point where you could own your power and light to be doing such a big deal thing that you're embarking on right now?
Hmm. Can you ask that again?
Yes, I love that. So how did you get to a point of having so much confidence, so much courage for doing this?
Good question. Yeah, this is a lot of expansion. I really am expanding myself to like put myself out into the world in this way. And it is confronting. It is all of the things. Um, so two parts, like what I was talking about before, as far as like I've gone through my healing and I've cleared those deep rooted belief systems. Now the thoughts can still come up and the patterns can still come up, but they're not deeply rooted. So I can identify them, and I can like stop them and replace them with truth. And so that bringing me into so much clarity around my purpose, um, it's created this sensation and experience, I'd say, that I've never had before, where it's just like as uncomfortable as it is, as confronting as it can be to put myself out there, as expansive as it can be. Um, I absolutely have to. It's just like there's just this burning sensation of this is what God has like put me here to do, and this is the time, and he has made that so clear that there's no denying it that like those things come and then they just go. So I would say like the enthusiasm and the confidence and the audacity to do these things just comes from that like pure like this I have to do this and I have to share what I've been blessed with. So yeah.
And I feel like this big resonance of you have to share how you got through that really heavy time and made it through as well. So I love that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your vulnerability of sharing that. These things still come up and you're not perfect. Thank you. That's so much relief for all of us hearing this. Like, there's still some of those stories of distortion are still coming up, but I'm not listening to them as long, or maybe we actually are listening, right? But we're not, we're collecting the evidence for that the opposite is true. So
Yeah.
what would you say the opposite of shame is? Or do you feel like there is an opposite?
Yeah, I believe peace is the opposite.
Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. Would you say that's the case for the five energetic hooks there, the most dense? Do you feel like the opposite of all of those could be peace?
Yeah. Yeah. And I really love that, like when I found David Hawkins' map of consciousness, because that's what I was like digesting my own experience. I was like, oh, in my experience, having peace is the opposite of having shame. And
Right.
then when I went and looked and it was like shame is the lowest and peace is the highest, I was like, yeah.
Oh, I love it so
Yeah.
much. All right. So just one more question. Tell me about owning your power and your light, and if that has always been supernatural and easy for you, or how the journey to getting there happened.
Yeah. Good question. No, this is the first time in my life that I've owned my power in my life. Yeah. Yeah. Just let that sink in. Um, yeah, it and it kind of goes back a little bit to like my foundation story. Like even when
Right.
I was a child, it was spoken over me a lot that like that I'm here to help people, that I'm here to be like an open space, that I'm here to listen and support and all of these things. I had a very unique upbringing, and part of that was my mom being a counselor.
Yes.
And so it was a lot of like, oh, you're gonna be just like your mom because like everybody, like anybody can talk to you. And I would have people talk to me like even as a kid and just like tell me their whole life story and like all of their biggest things, right? Um and so I would say doing work like this, facilitating things like this has always been in my DNA. And I ran from it as fast as I could, as soon as I could. I was like, nope, not going to do that. Like, not going down that path. Um, and I'm grateful now because I'm like, I got to go through all of my healing, which is important.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like stepping into this being a part of my dharma, my purpose. Um, and I heard a sermon today where it's like where you I'm completely paraphrasing this, but like where you are called and where you are gifted is also where you will be bit.
Hmm.
And so it's like I experienced a lot too in my life that told me to be small and to hide and to not really let people notice me and to just like exist in the shadows,
Right.
to like not take up space, not really use my voice. Um, and so for all of those years, I was not owning my light and my power at
Mm,
all. Yeah. Um, and the journey to it, to owning my light and power, for me really came from being open to look at myself and being open to um, look to different modalities. I was also brought up in a religious, like a Christian household.
right.
And at that time, I think it was also custom, like typical in society, was like we only look to Christian modalities, like we only look to the Bible. Um, for me, my real like revelation and healing started when, yes, I take the aspects of Christianity that I learned, but also incorporating that with like very practical things as well. And um, just being open to different modalities like meditation and somatic work, breath work, body work, like getting in tune with my body, all like so many different things. And like I said earlier, like collecting that evidence that um, collecting that evidence of what is actually true about me. So, yeah.
Okay, I lied. I do have one more final question, but I promise this is the final one. It's just so good. It's just so
Yeah,
good when hearts that just align match up and get to spend a moment of time together. So I'm gonna squeeze in the last question with your permission.
of course, of course.
So I was just reflecting about how one of the most potent ways we can connect with our audience and just these soul-aligned people, friends, soul sisters, clients, and just relationships really come from being vulnerable and showing really specific things, right? So I know you've given us a ton of specifics already, but I was wondering if there's any part that you feel like is a place that you would like to go in deeper. I know, and I can cut this out as well if if that other one wanted to be the final answer and you feel complete, totally fine. But just, you know me, I like always being like, is there a space for a tiny little stretch here? And I want to ask you about this journey with this significantly smaller layer of shame which has been, about tidying up. I mean, there's even bigger things of shame, right, that you talked about, like with work, with marriage. But this is something that seems so small. However, I was just reflecting when you were talking, and I even got emotional and I now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to bring it up because now I'm okay. But it was like, wow, even if it's something so small, like I didn't make my bed, I didn't wear makeup, something that feels small and insignificant. However, like you said, it is the lowest in the map of consciousness. So even if it's due to a very small thing, it still makes a huge impact on our vibration. So I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge like how even these small things that were like, that doesn't matter, that's just a tiny thing, why can it have so much impact? And do you want to share any specifics? And thank you for showing up.
Yeah, let me feel into it. I think these are the little things, like we experience them as little things a lot of times in our life of like, honestly, even like how I referenced before, the catastrophizing and hypervigilance, some of us live in that so often that it's just normal.
Right.
And it just gets chalked up as normal and like, well, that's just the way that I am. And because I've experienced these things and a lot, I can see them now in other people a lot of times too.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, interesting, like I get that. Um, and so for me, the more, I would say, the more we heal, the more we learn there is to heal.
Right.
Um, I don't know that anybody is ever like fully healed. I mean, this is a human experience, right? So yeah, as I've healed, like the more deeper foundational things, then these other things come to the surface. And so this one that you and I have been working together on, and I'm like so blown away by the way that you coach on these things. It's absolutely amazing. Um, has been around like keeping my space clean and tidy and like taking care of it. And I've run a lot of stories that are like, well, I just can't do that. And there's something wrong with me because I can't do it. And it shouldn't be so much of a struggle for me. And, but it is. And what I want to highlight in this, as far as like for anybody to be able to take this and apply it to their life,
Yes.
is even like asking yourself, where do you poke fun at yourself?
Mhm.
Where do you allow and create the space for other people to poke fun at you?
Mhm.
Because that's what like this particular instance was for me. It became something that was laughed about, and that was like common conversation of like, oh, Angel doesn't put her clothes away, or Angel doesn't cook, or Angel doesn't clean, and like ha 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 ha, to the point where like somebody actually said it in their speech about me at my wedding, and it was like a ha 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 ha, and I was like, oh, and at the time I just kind of laughed, but it still stung because
Mhm.
I was like, okay. um and so these things that we believe about ourselves and that we feel, it's kind of like that mentality of we have to beat them to the punch, like we make fun of ourselves about it before somebody else can.
Wow.
And I see people do this a lot, a
Mhm.
lot. I see it with women a lot, especially. I mean, men too. Um, but I was thinking about this the other day too. Even when we send a text or a voice message or get on the phone with somebody, and our first instinct is to apologize,
Mhm.
and to apologize for like just being who we are. Like, oh, I'm sorry that my hair looks this way. I was blah, 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 blah. Or I'm sorry that, whatever it is. Um,
Sorry, I have a breakout. I'm sorry I didn't laugh enough.
yeah,
I'm
like
sorry I arrived in a bad mood.
yeah, there's so many things that and it's just this subconscious, it can be a subconscious story playing of um worry and shame, and like, well, what are they going to think? And so then I have to preempt it, and really then it all comes back to what you're thinking about yourself. Because anything that we think someone else might be thinking is really just us thinking it ourselves.
Ah, I love it. I love that you mentioned this, and I'm so grateful that you brought that vulnerability up because it makes you have those aha moments of like, oh, that's where I can relate to this. And I just want to just give you a little bit of praise. You know, I love giving praise, maybe too much. Maybe that's me apologizing, me feeling shameful, catching myself. This is why I'm going to that event. And the thing is, the pace at which you have moved through the resistance of the shame with the tidying up has been magnificent. You know, we've worked for just 3 weeks and it is like a whole new angel. And it's so beautiful because it's like, hey, why did I do these clearing meditations? And it's like, because, like you said, we are always having new layers to heal, but the layers get smaller and smaller and smaller, and we can work through them many times faster. And of course, there's some exceptions, right? But many times faster and many times with more grace, more fun, more love, more compassion. And because that peace that you've harnessed is already there. It's accompanying you for the ride of getting to this. And so I imagine, wow, 3 years ago, even if we showed up in the same way, you probably would not have moved through this new level of tidying up you did in just 3 weeks. So just
Yeah.
just just seeing the beauty of the work that you do now and the seeds it plans for later.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you for that reflection.
I love that. And yeah, so on any closing note, is there anything else that's coming to mind? Do you want to give a shout out, a special invitation, anything else that is in your heart to end it up with?
Yeah. Well, I would like to invite any woman from anywhere in life and any walk of life to join us for Turning Point. The other part I haven't mentioned yet is that the whole intention of this and the naming of it and all of that has been from me looking at all of the breaking points I had and
Hmm.
realizing that they didn't have to be breaking points. Like I can choose any moment to be a turning point. I didn't have to wait for my life to fall apart like it did all of those times. And so this is an invitation to declare that this is your turning point, that you desire to live in peace, that you desire to let go of shame and guilt and fear. And if you're not sure where those live in your life, then you're ready to let go of anxiety, depression, hypervigilance, like um, just feeling uncomfortable in your own skin, feeling that chatty voice in your head, the critic that just never stops. Like this is the point where you can decide like I'm going to let go of all of that and I'm going to take purposeful action to walk through those and walk through them in a community of women who are also walking through them, mixed with women who have already walked through them, and everybody who is um, there to meet meet everyone in love and acceptance.
I'm so excited for this, and it's so beautifully timed with your birthday, 11/11. Oh, so exciting.
Yeah.
So I think that's a wrap. What do you think?
Yeah, if you want to join us, you can register, of course, at angelpatty.com. That's my name. And if you can join us live, there will be recordings of everything so that everybody can just soak in all the magic.